And I'll stop sharing my screen, and Christina, you can see if it'll let you share yours.
Do you see it?
Looks good. You have the floor.
Okay, awesome. Well, hello, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Christina Gagne. I am an admissions recruiter for Kennesaw State University, and I'm super excited to be here and kind of talk to you guys not only about KSU, but about USG admissions in general. So we're going to go ahead and get started. First, I want to start off by talking about some quick facts about KSU. We are the second largest university in the state of Georgia. We currently sit at actually over 42,000 students. So like most other USG schools, we experienced a huge growth this year, and we're super excited for it. In terms of what else we have going on, we have 150 degree programs, 90 specifically for our undergraduate students. So with a lot of universities, whether you're looking at Kennesaw State or really any university within the USG system, there are a lot of different choices for you to kind of look over. And thankfully here at KSU, we also have a wide variety as well. Another big thing when looking at a university, especially for me, when I chose to go to KSU as a student, my biggest thing was how easy it was for me to get involved and really make a name for myself. And at KSU, we do have over 300 plus student organizations that our students can get involved in. But really, once again, with any USG school, you're going to find opportunities. It just kind of depends on what student life you're really looking for. So that's a little bit about us. But most importantly, one thing that's also just kind of important for students to know when you're looking for universities is the class sizes, right? So at Kennesaw State, we have a very small campus field despite our huge student population size, mainly because of our student faculty ratio. It currently sits at 21:1, which basically just means that when our students go in to take those major classes, they're going to experience those smaller class sizes. Once again, this is super beneficial academically because professors are more inclined to assist students on projects. And most importantly, you just kind of get to see familiar faces. So it's super nice to see other students in the same program as you. So when you go on to work with other students on projects, papers, or anything like that, you actually kind of recognize them. So that's just a little bit about what we have going on and what you can look for in other universities as well. But most importantly, one thing that I like to tell my students is that where you choose to go to, college is the most important, because that's really going to set you up for your future career opportunities. Thankfully, with where Kennesaw State is located, we are just 30 minutes north of downtown Atlanta. So we're not in the city, but our students still get to benefit from all the big city things like access to Fortune 500 companies, as well as an unlimited amount of small businesses. So this is a really great opportunity. Once again, when you go into those internships or those co-ops, those really awesome career opportunities are right down the street from you. However, if you're like me and you weren't so fond of the super big city life, thankfully, we are kind of in a sweet spot where you can get the best of both worlds with a little bit of suburbia, but while benefiting from all the big city things. So where you choose to go to university does matter. And then for us, we have two separate campuses. So first we have the Kennesaw campus, which focuses on liberal arts degrees. And then we also have the Marietta campus as well that focuses more on STEM that I'll kind of dig into too. But for the Kennesaw campus, we do have the Bagwell College of Education. This is actually the top producer of first-time teachers in the state of Georgia. It's a really great program because we are able to offer our students that in-class experience their junior and senior year. So they're kind of already interviewing for that first-time teacher employment opportunities while still in the teaching program, which is super exciting. We also have the Coles College of Business. This is a really great business school that our students can be a part of. It's actually one of the few schools that offers a degree that's internationally accredited, meaning that if you did get your degree from the Coles College of Business, you could take that overseas if that's what you choose to do. Within this college, you're going to find accounting, business management, marketing, things like that. That's usually the home for those students. We have the College of Humanities and Social Sciences. This was actually my college when I attended Kennesaw State. I was a criminal justice major. So this is my home. It's also my favorite building because that's where the Starbucks is located. And you definitely need that in college, of course, but it's not just for criminal justice majors. It's also for communications, which is the largest major that we offer on campus, political science and things like that. And then we have the College of Science and Math. The most popular major within this college is biology. We do offer concentrations in pre-med as well as pre-veterinary services for our biology majors. And then of course our math majors as well are located in that college too. And then we have the College of the Arts. This is basically, if you want to major in dance, you can totally do that. We have really great studios for our students within this college. We also focus on graphic design, fashion and textile design, art as just a plain old major. That's the home for them. And then the Wellstar College of Health and Human Services is the home to our nursing program, which is one of the top in the state. It's also one of the most competitive in the state right now, and we're very proud of that. Again, really great program to get involved in. Our students have their clinicals with the Wellstar health system and actually get first dibs on employment once they graduate. So we're super proud of our students in there. And the reason why we choose to kind of point out all of the colleges located on this campus, as well as the Marietta campus, which I'll kind of dig into, is just to kind of show the differences in what type of programs we offer. As I mentioned earlier, Kennesaw State, we offer over 150 degree programs because we are a doctorate university. So to just shine a light on the diverse programs that not just Kennesaw has, but really any university can offer you, I think is super important. So that's kind of why I'm going through this here. And then to just kind of talk about the Marietta campus really quickly. Again, this is our campus that focuses on STEM. So we have the College of Architecture and Construction Management. That one kind of speaks for itself. Our architecture and our construction management majors, that's their home. That's their only home. We also have the College of Computing and Software Engineering. This is for majors like computer science or video game design. A lot of our students have had really great opportunities within the video game design program with companies like PlayStation. Simply, once again, bringing it back to that location, but also to the great resources that we can provide them on this campus. And then lastly, we have the Southern Polytechnic College of Engineering and Engineering Technology. So this is the home for all of our engineering majors, from civil, industrial, mechanical. The list kind of goes on and on. But one thing that I love the most about this college is the resources that are actually in there, including all the labs. So we have labs from 3D printing to robotics to mechanics. Really anything you can think of, it's right there where our students can access it through their program. So that's something that's really cool. Once again, to tie it into like USG and kind of, the process of looking for the right university for you, it's not only just about the campus life that I mentioned or about the class sizes, it's also about the resources that are available to you and the opportunity to really get that hands-on experience before you go into your career field with the program of your choice. And thankfully here at Kennesaw State, we do a really great job of providing that experience for our students. Now for our freshman admissions, in my opinion, with Kennesaw State, our application process is pretty simple. So we do not run a holistic admission system. There are some USG schools who do, however, we do not. So we do not require our students to submit essays or community service or references or anything like that. We just really want to know who our students are as just that. Students are academic learners. So when you go to fill out our application, which you can see the website right there on how you can do so. Once they submit that application and put in all their personal information, their education history and things like that, they then get a confirmation email. Once that is submitted, we only request two things, and that's going to be the official high school transcript as well as the official test scores. So you can either take the SAT or the ACT. You do not have to take both. You can take either or if you want to take both, feel free to do so. We will accept both scores as well. And then to just kind of go back there with that official transcript, this goes for all USG schools. The reason why it's deemed official is because there is no third party in between. So students who are joining us here today, definitely work with your high school counselor on sending out those high school transcripts directly to the university that you're interested in. That's what keeps it official, and that's how we can actually accept it through this application process. Now to kind of just get more into specifics, Once we receive that official high school transcript, we are going to do our own calculation of your GPA. So more than likely on your high school transcript right now, the GPA that you see is not the one that we will be looking at. So basically, we do not look at your elective courses. So if you've ever taken an art class or a PE class or band, that is super awesome. However, that is not included in our GPA calculation. And for all USG schools, we only look at certain courses. Those courses are your 4 English, science, math, your 3 social science, and your 2 foreign language in the same language. That is USG policy. All USG schools kind of follow that grading scale or follow those core classes. And for us, once we look at those classes, it does need to sit at a 2.5 academic GPA. So that's kind of what we're looking at in order to be admitted into the university. And then of course, the test scores that I mentioned earlier, not all USG schools are going back to requiring the SAT or ACT, but we are. So for the SAT, we are looking at 500 evidence-based reading and writing and a 490 in math. And then for the ACT, we are looking for an 18 English or reading and an 18 in math. Again, you can take either or, you do not have to take both. And we do super score. So you can definitely try your hand in both and just kind of see what happens. And then with all universities, we do have deadlines, and they're super important to go ahead and jot down and kind of keep in the back of your brain. For our deadlines, I definitely want to go ahead and point out the priority deadline for fall 2022. That's going to be November 2nd. For us, that priority deadline basically means that if you are able to submit your application and get in all the required paperwork or documents into us before November 2nd, then you have early access to the big things that are going to open up in December, such as orientation, where you're going to register for classes, and also housing. We do offer first year housing on both of our campuses, but it is super competitive. So that's why we kind of say to follow the priority deadline. And really, as you're going through this process of applying for universities, the biggest thing or advice that I can give today is just don't wait. If you even have an idea of a university that you're interested in, go ahead and submit the application and get the biggest obstacle out of the way. That way, for when you do make that decision, you can just go ahead, submit the few things, get that decision, and access the resources that you need to start really well that first semester at university. So that's one thing to keep note. But of course, we all have a final deadline, and our final deadline is going to be June 1st. So after that, we will no longer be accepting applications for the fall 2022 semester. And then as you can see here, this is just a really great resource. If you guys are recording or taking pictures, feel free to go ahead and take a picture of this because this is our timeline for enrollment. So this basically has all the deadlines or the opening dates for things that you kind of need to get started with college. As you can see here for us at KSU, our fall 2022 application is already open. So is our FAFSA. So go ahead and kind of get on top of that if you can. Then we have that priority deadline that I mentioned. And then after that, as you can see, we have that housing application and the orientation sign up that I mentioned earlier as well. So really great resource to go ahead and take a picture of just as a reminder for all the things coming up. But on that timeline, it also pointed out the university scholarship. So we do have somebody that's going to give you way more information than I can about financial aid. However, I can go over the basics, right? So for the Hope Scholarship and the Zell Miller Scholarship, we accept those for our students who come to KSU because we are a public university. So for the most part, most USG schools who are public and deemed public will accept the Hope Scholarship and the Zell Miller Scholarship. You just need to reach those academic GPAs in order to get that tuition assistance. And then for KSU specifically, we offer a university scholarship that's going to open November 1st, but it's a one-time application. So basically our students go in, they fill out this application, and once they're done, it gets sent out to all the scholarships the university has ever recognized or taken under its wing, I like to say. So that way, with that one application, you have unlimited possibilities of receiving tuition assistance, which is really great and has definitely helped our students here at KSU. Now, this is just something else that you can totally take a picture of if you want. After acceptance, with not just at KSU, but with any university, especially with USG, there are going to be extra steps that you got to do in order to really secure your place with that university. This is the list of ours. I'm not going to go through them because two of them are the biggest ones I've already mentioned. Again, that's signing up for orientation. That's where you're going to register for classes. So super beneficial to just go ahead and try to pick the earliest orientation date you can after you've been accepted. And then of course, signing up for our housing as well. And then we have our housing options. So with most universities, more than likely, they offer on-campus housing. So it really just depends on what you're looking for, and not just your first year experience, but also for your personal experience while attending college, right? Like we want to be comfortable. We want to be sure that we can actually make this a home away from home. And thankfully for us, we have been able to kind of update some of our housing options. So we do offer a traditional style housing on our Marietta campus, as you see here. It's called Howell Hall. This building was actually newly renovated. This is the first year that it's open, which is super exciting. So that's a really great option for our students that we provide. And then let's see here. There we go. And then for our Kennesaw campus, we are actually building a brand new residential complex for our students coming in for fall 2022. This is something that we are super excited about. You know, this is something that we've needed for a long time, but the biggest and most exciting thing about this residential complex is it's going to have its own dining services. So I'm super excited to see what that looks like for our students. But to just kind of wrap that all up into one statement, again, I want to bring that back to really what you're looking for in a university in terms of housing, or really all the services that the university can provide you, such as transportation, meal plans, dining, sports, student life. It's super important to just get as much information as you can about these resources or these services, especially while you're touring. My biggest advice for students here with us today is to definitely take the opportunity to go see these universities for yourself. Go ahead and take that extra step to attend a campus tour or an open house date so that you actually get a really good feel of the university that you're looking into. That's really the best way to know if that's the right place for you, is to go see it for yourself. Okay. And then one thing before I kind of wrap up this presentation here, definitely feel free to go ahead and follow KSU on our social media. We do a really great job of hosting these things called Instagram story takeovers. Most of the time they're hosted by either our tour guides or staff or faculty. Really anybody we can think of to get involved will host these Instagram story takeovers. So instead of having to wait 3 days for a department to answer your question about KSU, you can actually ask it on Instagram and get a response almost immediately. So we're super glad that we do that. It really helps our students out. So definitely feel free, to give us a really quick follow. And then the last slide, most importantly, contact us, or really with any USG school, work with a counselor. Our whole job is to really assist you through this process of applying either to our university or just the university search in general. I know that my whole goal is to really help students find their place here at KSU and to help them actually get started and started off strong. So feel free to contact me at any time if you are interested in learning more about Kennesaw State. I would love to help you find your wings at KSU. So that's pretty much it for my presentation. Do we have any questions?
Hey, Christina, there was a question in the chat wondering if KSU offers culinary art.
Mm-hmm. So that is actually part of our hospitality program. We no longer have a full culinary arts program because it kind of got merged. So for our hospitality program, you can major in hospitality, but you can get either a specialization or a concentration in food service or culinary arts, things like that.
Thank you. Did you have any other questions, Journey?
Well, good.
Yes, I was gonna ask how she said I can major in hospitality.
Mm-hmm.
Would that, when I'm taking a culinary classes in hospitality, would I be able to like get jobs when I get out of school from it?
Yeah, so maybe not specifically in those jobs that are looking for more of a traditional culinary arts education, because there are trade schools that kind of offer more of a program that focuses on that, whereas we focus more on the hospitality or business side of things. So it really kind of just depends on what you're looking for in terms of getting that experience before you go into the career field. For us, with that major in hospitality and just the specialization in culinary arts, you might be more leaning towards, let's say, service in a hotel industry or catering and things like that. But if you're really looking to get more of a culinary arts degree, then I highly recommend looking into certain schools that offer those courses from back to front.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, awesome. Any more questions for me? No? Okay, great. Well, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Christina. Since I think we don't have any other students to ask questions right now, we can go ahead and transition to Jeremy's presentation. Jeremy, if you would see if you can share your screen.
Sure. Everybody see that?
Looking good. Thank you.
All right, perfect. Good evening, everybody. My name is Jeremy Tulon. I'm the Director of Programming for the Scholarship Academy. For those who don't know or aren't familiar with us yet, and I really hope you are, because I've worked really hard to try and get in the good graces of Gear Up over this last year in my role. The Scholarship Academy is a nonprofit based in the Atlanta area. Our goal at our core is to help students avoid student loan debt. We do that through a number of means, through helping students submit FAFSA, navigating scholarship applications, and just understanding college affordability in general. Today, I want to talk to you a little bit about scholarship applications, as well as how to look for scholarships, as well as how to write a solid essay for your scholarship application. So one of the first things I would normally ask a group to do is to actually take a few minutes to rate yourself. This activity is really important in my opinion, because it's one of the first times you get to sort of be honest about your competitiveness for scholarship dollars, right? So this is going to be the first time you sit down and ask yourself, how do you rate when it comes to your GPA, so your actual academics, with a max score being a 10, your test scores, if you've already taken your standardized tests, SAT, ACT, et cetera, where is that landing for you? You know, you want to, again, think, are you being strong in those categories? Are you a little bit weaker? And then you move into some of the other spaces as well. So you have leadership, community service, and demonstrating financial need. And so these categories, those three categories, leadership, community service, and financial need, I think are really important when we talk about scholarships, because a lot of times students and families in general tend to think scholarships are only for people with high GPAs or high test scores. But those other categories, when it comes to leadership, community service, and demonstrating a financial need, are really important when it comes to scholarships, because a lot of scholarships today now look to those characteristics or those needs to really put money where it matters the most for students. And so it's very important, I think, for you as a student or as a parent to think about who you are or who your student is and where they would fall as far as an actual rating goes, because that'll give you an idea of when they do want to go apply for scholarships, A, the type of scholarships that they should be looking for, but B, you know, how competitive they actually are for those dollars in that moment in time. So one thing you want to think about is working smarter, not harder. This is like my number one key sort of takeaway for students and families. You want to work based on your strengths and your experiences, right? So when you're looking for scholarships, you want to look for scholarships that fit to who you are. You know, if you know you haven't done a lot of leadership or community service, I would then probably shy away from scholarships that are around community service. You know, if you've only put in 20 community service hours in the last year, trying to go out and now be competitive for scholarships that are around community service, around volunteering and giving back to one's community and neighborhood is pretty hard to now go and be competitive for if you're not meeting those criteria. So you want to make sure you work smarter, not harder. That's another reason that criteria or that assessment comes into play, because you want to make sure that your actual efforts are going in the right direction. So scholarship research, how do you look for the dollars? Where are you going to look for the dollars is a question I get rather often, right? Where do I go and find scholarships? Who do I talk to? What do I look for, etc.? And so I broke it down into a really simple chart for you, because I think if you approach it in sort of this mindset, this will give you the best chance to cover every area of where you can look for a scholarship. So starting at the base level or your foundation level, you're going to look for school and departmental based scholarships. So these are all going to be things that you're looking at your individual institutions. So like we just saw Kennesaw State actually has a scholarship office on campus. So they actually go out and they research scholarships that their students have won, but they also have internal scholarships, either from the departments or from alumni and other spaces as well. So you want to be aware of institutional awards that are available to you. And those include things from alumni donors, alumni associations, anything corporate sponsored at the university will go through that office as well. You basically want to be aware of any sort of scholarship that is available at your individual institution. Of course, if you have not been accepted yet, as I know we're very early in this process when it comes to college applications this year, one thing you'll start thinking about is, okay, what are your top schools, right? If you're thinking of a list of 10 schools, you're not necessarily going to go out and research all scholarships at all 10 schools. That would be pretty time consuming. What you want to think about is, well, what schools, if they accept you, would you 9 times out of 10 want to attend, right? What are going to be your top choices so that those are the schools where you can focus your effort. Once you've looked at sort of the school-based or campus-based structure, next you want to look at student organizations and affiliations, anything sort of campus or community-based that might fit for you, as well as community foundations. So this is a little bit twofold. So a good example of student orgs and affiliations are if you're attending, let's say like Howard University or Hampton University, they often have alumni programs around metropolitan cities. So there's most likely an Atlanta alumni chapter that will oftentimes have a scholarship available to a student from the Atlanta area or from the state of Georgia, whatever the actual alumni association is. They'll oftentimes have scholarships available. So you'll want to look there as well, right? You want to make sure you're turning over every rock, so to speak. But then within your personal network, you want to think about community connections you have. So any organization that you've been a part of, like Big Brothers Big Sister, Boys and Girls Club, YMCA, churches, Little League, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, any organizations or clubs that your parents or family members are a part of are extremely important. So that can be things like motorcycle clubs, fraternities, sororities. It can be things like where they bank or who their employer is. You would be surprised the number of times that an employer offers a scholarship, but families don't either know about it or don't actually go forward and apply to it. So it's really important to actually, understand your network and what you have available to you. From that next level up, you're going to move into like professional associations. And so this would be things like the National Society of Black Engineers, pre-med organizations, CPA organizations, depending on what you want to study. You're basically going to look for professional organizations that support either that profession or students trying to pursue that profession, because more than likely they will also have scholarships attached there. And then lastly, you're going to have your foundation and corporations like Coca-Cola, State Farm, all those big name scholarships like the Gates Foundation. Those all sit at the top of the pyramid because those are often the most competitive, but they can also be the most rewarding if you do win them, right? So we don't want to leave them off the pyramid, but like I said, we want to work smarter, not harder. So we know if we're not extremely competitive in every single category, going after a national scholarship may not be the best use of our energy, time, and resources. So really quickly thinking about some like local scholarships or how do you find them, right? I tell people the easiest thing to do is search for them at your school, right? So you want to think by the major, whatever you're studying. So, I think somebody was just mentioning culinary arts. If you're going to a school that has a culinary arts program, you want to see if they have any scholarships for students studying in that field. So what you'll do is you'll either reach out to the department, you'll reach out to the scholarships office if they have one, or you'll reach out to the financial aid department to find out if they have a list of scholarships available. Basically, you want to start networking. Closed mouths don't get fed. You have to really speak up. You have to be willing to ask questions and have different conversations to really find out if the money is available. And so I gave you a couple quick examples. So sfs.gsu.edu and atlantatech.edu/financial aid will basically just take you to their websites where you can see a list of their scholarship availabilities and find out more information on their financial aid. So some tips for looking at local awards or finding local awards. You want to make sure you're making contact with your guidance counselor. It may also be your Gear Up County coordinator, your school liaison, whoever is sort of in your corner. You want to make sure somebody is there to have your back and write nomination letters or reference letters, because basically it's very difficult for you to go forward and win scholarship dollars if you don't have anyone to serve as a reference, right? Same way you need letters of reference for your college applications. Sometimes when it comes down to scholarship dollars, you will need them as well. So it's very important to keep those people in mind. I remember when I worked as a high school counselor for a little bit, I had the same student coming to me for every single letter that they need written. And I wasn't ungrateful that they looked to me for that. But at the same time, I often had to ask them, hey, do you have anybody else who can write a better letter for you for this specific scholarship? Maybe I'm not the best person. And so it's very important that you know who is connected to you. So in some spaces, it may be your guidance counselor. Sometimes it may be the person who oversees your community service. It could be a football or a sports coach, whoever it is, whoever that person is, make sure you maintain contact with them and communication. So when you do need that letter of support, they're able and willing to actually write it. And so when we're looking for some of these dollars in our local community, what are some of our first steps or the first spaces we want to look at? So first of all, you want to contact your local chamber of commerce or anything sort of in that vein when it comes to your local community. So it could be a chamber of commerce. It could be like a community foundation, like you see a couple lines below. Who sort of has money and is looking to build up the community is basically the question you want to ask yourself. You also want to visit the websites of all the high schools in your community. So your high school may have a scholarship website, but there could also be a high school 20 minutes away in the same county or in the same area that has a scholarship list too, that may have some different scholarships on it. So don't hesitate to actually reach out or search some of those other lists, because you'll be surprised what you find. And then you're also going to look for local chapters of national organizations and reaching out to local credit unions. Credit unions are really important because a lot of times it's fairly easy to set up an account. Sometimes you only need like $5. And that $5 to set up that account actually lets you now go and be eligible for their scholarship, right? So what I would love for you to do is start thinking about different spaces within your own personal network where you can look for scholarships. And lastly, which I'll talk about in just a minute, don't be afraid to use the Virtual Scholarship Center scholarship database, okay? So what is the Virtual Scholarship Center database? It is our own research filter tool, is how I like to put it. If you think of online shopping nowadays, where you can go on to whatever website, Fashion Nova, Amazon, wherever you shop, and you have the ability to filter what you're looking for. So if you're looking for a short sleeve t-shirt that's black with white writing and a V-neck and a size medium, you can actually filter all of those based on the brand you're shopping or the online store you're shopping. And so we've done that same exact thing with scholarships. So you see a screenshot of the actual scholarship database here, or at least a filter tool for the database. And so you're actually able to filter by a number of things. So if there's a GPA requirement, if there's a gender requirement, if ethnicity plays a part, major, affiliation, special considerations, the amount, or when the application is actually due, we input all of this data into the back end of our database so that when you all go in and do a search, it's as accurate as possible, right? What we want to do is make this process a lot simpler, because we know when we're looking for scholarships, doing that Google search that can sometimes feel endless is definitely not a fun process. And so making things easier by putting them all in this database and this filter tool for you is really our goal. And so for those who don't know, the easiest way to access this database or the Virtual Scholarship Center in general is virtualscholarshipcenter.com. Your username for Gear Up students will be your Gear Up Georgia email. I believe your county coordinator can provide that to you if you need it. And then your password would be Gear Up GA, all capitalized. Unless you've changed it, if for some reason your password doesn't work, there is a forgot password button there that will reset it for you. So this is a little bit of an old slide that I've used previously, but I used it actually this summer to show how often and frequent scholarships are sort of turning over. So I did this presentation actually back on June 1st, and I was able to show that within 2 months, there were going to be 3 scholarships I found really easily that were going to be closing out. Now we're at the beginning of the scholarship cycle, so pretty much any scholarship you find at this point in time is pretty much either not open yet or literally just opened like yesterday, and so you have plenty of time to start getting your application materials in order. So what are your application materials, right? So you're most likely going to have to write some form of application. So that'll be like a questionnaire, first name, last name. They're gonna ask you your GPA, your goals, etc. You may have to do some type of resume submission, an interview maybe. But the biggest thing I find for scholarship applications is gonna be your competitive essay. And so competitive essay writing is really important. Number one mistake I see students making is keeping on topic, right? I think a lot of times students have great stories that they really want to try and tell, that they really want to put down on paper, but it's not always to the point of the essay prompt. And that's what we want to make sure. We want to make sure that the essay you are writing actually meets the prompt. You want to make sure that you're answering all the parts of the prompt or the question or whatever there may have been that started your essay. You want to make sure you stay on that track. And the biggest thing you can do is actually cut out the fluff, right? So when you're writing your essay and you're trying to tell a story, or you're trying to be, creative in your approach, there's nothing wrong with creativity, but creativity has a very fine line between fluff and sort of this genius creativity, right? And what I mean by fluff is just you're saying things for a word count, right? The word count is 2,000 words, so you're trying to build it up by just throwing words out there or throwing sentences out there that really don't have a place in your essay anymore. So we want to try and avoid that. Essay number 2 is like, whose story is it, right? So the biggest example of this I can tell you is using someone else as your motivation, but then only writing your essay about that person and either their obstacles or their triumphs, etc. Right? Your scholarship essay is not a book report, right? You shouldn't be doing sort of a generic summary of a person's accomplishments, not even your accomplishments, right? It should still be to a point. There should still be a prompt that you're addressing. So a lot of times I see students who write about getting motivation from a parent, either like a struggle a parent had or just the way a parent approached life, or maybe some type of celebrity, musician, who knows. It happens a lot. It happens like way more frequently than I would like to admit, that people sort of get off into a track where they're describing this person's situation and how they got over it, but they never actually pull it back to describe what they encountered or what they experienced and what they actually overcame themselves and how they themselves should actually win this scholarship. Instead, they tell me this really great story about how you know, mom or dad overcame homelessness and all these amazing things, but it still doesn't get back to the point at hand of how you should be winning scholarship dollars. And so we want to make sure when we're talking about essays, we stay on track with who we are actually addressing and why. So these 3 guided questions I think are really important for you all when you're actually sort of writing your essays out, because I want you to think about your essay from the stance of a research scholarship committee. So first of all, you want to research who you're actually applying to, right? So a good example is if you are applying to a scholarship for, let's say, a fuel company like Exxon or QT, Racetrack, Mobil Gas, whoever, and they're asking you to talk about, you know, the future of energy and those type of things, and the future of vehicles and automotive vehicles, and you talk about the importance of electric cars and electric vehicles and how oil and fuel will be obsolete in the next 5 years, the chances are you're not going to win that scholarship, right? You're literally telling these people who you're asking for money that they're not going to have any money, right? Even if you write this amazing essay, what would make them want to pick you, right? So researching the committee to make sure that your subject matter, your approach actually fits with their views and who they are as an organization. Remember to provide evidence and create the connection, right? So don't just make a statement, being able to back it up is extremely important. And remembering to always drive home what you're saying back to why you should win scholarship dollars, right? So you can tell me that Serena Williams is an awesome role model. Tell me how you're walking in their footsteps, and tell me why you walking in their footsteps should now get you scholarship dollars, right? That's what you want to think about. So some guiding questions, right? So who are you? What's great about you? And what have you done that is deserving of thousands of dollars in scholarships? And so along with your actual assessment you see on the right-hand side, start thinking about these 3 questions, right? These 3 questions are going to be constantly revisited in your scholarship applications. You're constantly going to have to explain, who are you? What's great about you? Why do you deserve this money? And the better you get at actually answering those questions, the better your essay will be. All right. So, you know, make sure you show why you're that good investment. Like I was just saying, your essay and your application is your one shot at showing the committee, hey, I'm a good investment, send me your money. Because basically, if you don't do it in either your essay or your application, they will have no chance of knowing, all right? So you have to immediately show them how you're either A, gonna give back to your community, build on the future, or make an impact of some sort down the line that makes them say, hey, we have to support this person, right? And if you struggle with that, I absolutely understand. You're not alone in the world. A lot of people do. So you absolutely have to ask for help to get support in developing that type of essay. And so one of the first places to start is also on your Virtual Scholarship Center. And we have this essay tool that I think is really awesome in my genuine opinion. So it's an essay draft tool. Over here on the right-hand side, you'll see it has like a creative openers, and you'll see 5 examples here. So we actually help you develop your own creative opener. We won't type it up for you. We won't actually write it or say it for you, but we give you 5 examples of really creative openers for an essay. And I think that's important because a lot of people struggle with how to open a competitive essay. You know, you can't just start off with, hi, my name's Jeremy and I'd like $1,000, because most people aren't going to finish reading that, or if they do, they're just not going to be drawn in enough where you'll actually set yourself apart from the pack. But beyond the creative openers, you'll see a number of things like these sentence starters. We have transition words. We give you a lot of examples, literally a whole web page full of examples of synonyms and antonyms you can use in your writing, so that when you're creating these essays, they don't become repetitive, right? I don't want you to keep saying, in addition to, on the other hand, All those phrases we typically use in academic writing just to sort of get by. We don't want to do that in competitive writing, because literally the essay you write is going to be the one thing that helps you stand apart from everyone else. So you want it to be as unique and creative as possible. And so your three major takeaways, right? You want to make sure you think about how you can critique yourself honestly. Think about ways you can improve and grow to become, a more competitive applicant, right? So maybe you don't do enough community service right now. Well, guess what? It's only October. You have, 3 months to go out and actually do some community service, do some leadership, create a project, or whatever it may be to actually help you be more competitive right now. You want to work smarter, not harder. So you want to make sure you're looking for local awards or scholarships that best fit your experience and who you are as a person. You want to think like a scholarship committee. So being able to demonstrate why you're a good investment and why you will stand apart from the pack and what you will do in the future. And lastly, remember to utilize Virtual Scholarship Center. It's there for you free of charge. If you have issues, I'll drop my email. You can also ask Gear Up for my email to contact me directly as well. I would love to help support you in your journey to make sure you do get a debt-free degree. All right, we'll pause if there are any questions. I'll check the chat. Doesn't look like anything's in there. So I think that's it for me.
Thank you, Jeremy. I don't see anything in the chat either. I know it's a little early for you, Angie, but if you're ready to present, we can go ahead. Angie, are you there?
Yes, hi, I'm here. Are you having internet difficulties or is it on my side?
It's been clear on my side, so it might be yours.
Okay. If for some reason my internet cuts out, I've got two different options here for internet. I've got my phone as a hotspot. So I will immediately join back in. But let me go ahead and share my screen.
Okay, sounds good. I'll let you know if you start cutting out or anything too.
Okay. Could not tell if it was me. Okay. Can you see my screen?
I sure can.
All right. Well, I'm Angie Wilson. I work with the Georgia Student Finance Commission. And tonight I'm going to talk just a little bit about financial aid. I'm going to talk about federal and state aid. We'll look at some federal programs. We'll look at what we offer through the state of Georgia. We'll take a quick look at the Fafsa and then also look at financial aid packages as well. So let's start by looking at some federal aid programs. So there are general eligibility requirements to receive any type of federal student aid. Students must be a U.S. citizen or eligible non-citizen. They must be a high school graduate or GED recipient. They must be enrolled in an eligible program. That could be a certificate, diploma, or degree program. Students must also have a valid Social Security number. And students who are receiving financial aid must also maintain satisfactory academic progress. Now, that is a policy that's required by federal law, so all colleges have to have a satisfactory academic progress policy. And basically, it just says that any student receiving financial aid must maintain a minimum GPA, and that GPA will vary from college to college, usually somewhere around a 2.0. It might be a little higher, a little less, depending on the college. But students must also receive credit for 67% of their coursework. So let me give an example of that. A student registers for 12 hours. They withdraw from 6 hours. They're completing 6 out of 12. That's only a 50% completion rate, and that would not meet the minimum of 67% completion rate. So that student would be in danger of losing financial aid. And that catches a lot of freshmen that first year. So students want to be very careful, make sure you understand about the satisfactory academic progress policy at your college. Make sure you're keeping that minimum GPA and be very careful about withdrawing from courses. Now let's take a look at some of the federal programs offered. As a senior, you'll be completing what's known as the Fafsa. That's the free application for federal student aid. And on the Fafsa form, you're going to be listing all of your income as a student as well as your family's income also. Now, the federal processor will process and calculate what is known as your expected family contribution. We call that an EFC number. Now, that's how much they expect your family is able to contribute towards your education based on the family's financial situation. It's not a dollar amount the family has to pay, but it's more like an index that determines how much financial aid a student would qualify for. So the lower that expected family contribution on the FAFSA, the more financial aid a student would qualify for. For the Pell Grant, that's one of our federal programs. This is for an undergraduate student with financial need, and that's how they determine that need from the FAFSA. Now, the lower that expected family contribution, again, the more money the student would qualify for. So if that expected family contribution on the FAFSA was 0, that means the family doesn't have any resources to help pay for college. That student would qualify for the maximum amount. So for the Pell Grant, that maximum amount would be $6,495 for the year. That's for this year. That usually goes up a little bit each year. And that's divided into usually 2 payments or 3 payments, depending on how your particular college does that. As that EFC or expected family contribution goes above 0, that $6,495 would be prorated. And then once it's, and I don't have that exact figure, it's somewhere in the 5,900 range, 5965, somewhere in there. Once that EFC or expected family contribution is above that amount, then the student would no longer qualify for the Pell Grant. They may qualify for other financial aid, just not the Pell Grant. Now, another grant available from the federal government is the Federal Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant, FSEOG. This is for undergraduate students with exceptional financial need. So the student would just about have to have that 0 as that expected family contribution on the FAFSA. Pell Grant recipients receive priority, and students can get up to $4,000 a year under this program. Now, what you want to remember about FSEOG is that funds are limited, and not all colleges have FSEOG funding. So this is one of the reasons that you would want to complete your FAFSA as early as possible. And that's because some funding could be limited. So the earlier you complete the FAFSA, the better your chances are of receiving some of the limited funding. The TEACH grant is available for undergraduate, post-baccalaureate, or graduate students who are enrolled in coursework to begin a career in teaching. Now, any student who receives the TEACH grant must agree to serve as a full-time teacher in a high-need field in a public or private elementary or secondary school that serves low-income students. Students can get up to $4,000 a year under this program, and it becomes a loan if the student decides not to teach. This is a great program for any student who is interested in becoming a teacher. Be sure that you check with your financial aid office to see if you possibly could qualify for the TEACH grant. Another federal program, the Federal Work Study Program. This is available for full-time or part-time undergraduate or graduate students. Now, these are jobs that are available on campus. They earn at least minimum wage. Sometimes they actually pay more, but it's at least minimum wage. And these are things like maybe being a campus tour guide, working in the library, working at a sporting event, or being an office assistant. And what you want to remember about the work study program, funds are limited and jobs are limited. So this is another program that you would want to apply for as early as possible. The good thing about the work study program is that you're actually earning a paycheck. So there's nothing that has to be paid back. These are grants. Grants don't have to be paid back in general. So this is not anything you would pay back. You're actually earning your funding, And this would be a great way to replace maybe some loans. Maybe instead of taking out a loan, maybe you could work on the work study program and earn a part of your funding instead. Now, loans are an option, but you always want to let loans be last on your list. Always look for scholarships and grants first before you look at loans. Try to find other funding. But loans are an option. They come direct from the federal government, and there are several types. There's the direct subsidized loan, as well as the direct unsubsidized loan for students. There's also the Federal Plus Loan Program, and this would be for parents of dependent undergraduate students, or students who are in graduate school and professional students have access to the Grad Plus loan as well. Now, subsidized loans are the best types of loans, and what you want to remember about the subsidized loan is that the interest is paid by the government while the student's enrolled at least half time. That's 6 hours. So as long as you're enrolled at least 6 hours, the entire time that you're in school, there's no interest accruing on these loans. And the current interest rate for this year for the subsidized loan is at 3.73%. The unsubsidized loans are also another option. This is available to undergraduate and graduate students. And the thing to remember about unsubsidized loan is that the student is responsible for paying the interest on these loans. Now, the student can choose to defer that interest until after they graduate, but keep in mind that interest is being added back to the principal, so that is causing, of course, that loan to grow and to have even more, or to have even more that you would have to pay back. The current interest rate for this year is also at 3.73%. Now, the Plus loan, this is available for parents who are the parent of a dependent. Only one parent would be the borrower, and you can actually have more than one loan as a parent if you have more than one student in college. Now, approval for the Plus loans is based on credit history, and the maximum amount a parent can borrow is up to the cost of attendance of the college minus any other financial aid awarded. And the current interest rate on the Plus loan is at 6.28%. Now, there's a limit to the amount a student can borrow under the federal loan program. So as a dependent freshman that first year, the student can borrow $5,500. Part of that would be subsidized, and then part of it would be unsubsidized. As a sophomore, students can borrow $6,500, and as a junior senior, students can borrow $7,500. Now, if the student is independent, or if the student is dependent and their parents applied for a Plus loan and was denied, then the student can borrow more. They can borrow as a freshman up to $9,500. However, as you can see, a larger portion of that would be unsubsidized funding, which means there's going to be more interest on that. Now let's take a look at what we offer through the state of Georgia. We have the HOPE program, that stands for Helping Outstanding Pupils Educationally. These are all the funds that fall under the HOPE program. We have the scholarships, that's the HOPE Scholarship and the Zell Miller Scholarship. We also have grants available. We have the HOPE grant, the Zell Miller grant, the HOPE Career Grant, and we even have a GED grant for any student who gets a GED. They actually can get a $500 voucher to apply towards their college expenses. Now, you may be wondering, well, what's the difference in the scholarships and the grants? And the difference is that the scholarships are available for students who are going into degree level programs. The grants are available for students who are going into certificate and diploma programs, and those are mostly going to be found at our technical colleges. There are some eligibility requirements in general for the HOPE program. Students must be a legal resident of Georgia. Now, if the student is male, they must be registered with Selective Service. Now, that used to be a requirement for federal aid, but actually, as of this year, that's been taken out. So male students are no longer required to be registered with Selective Service for federal aid. However, for HOPE or the HOPE program for state aid, they are required to be registered with Selective Service. Students must also be in compliance with the Georgia Drug-Free Post-Secondary Act. Students must also be U.S. citizens or eligible non-citizens, must be in good standing on any prior student loans, must be attending a HOPE-eligible college, and must be working towards the first undergraduate program. These are all of our HOPE-eligible institutions. All public colleges in Georgia are HOPE-eligible. So on the left side, you see all of the University System of Georgia schools. On the right side, we have all of our technical colleges. And in the middle column, these are all of the private institutions in Georgia that are HOPE-eligible. Now, all of these colleges are located in Georgia. Sometimes students want to know, can I use HOPE out of state? And the answer to that is no. It has to be one of these colleges, and they're all located in Georgia. We have a map and we have a list available on our website, which is gafutures.org. Now let's take a look at the HOPE Scholarship first. So to qualify for the HOPE Scholarship as a beginning freshman, students, of course, must be going into a degree program. That could be an associate's or bachelor's degree. They must graduate with a 3.0 high school HOPE GPA. Now that high school HOPE GPA is different from their cumulative GPA. So when students graduate high school, they actually have 2 GPAs. The HOPE GPA is only in core courses, 9th through 12th grade. So we are only going to be looking at English, math, science, social studies, and foreign language. It does have to be a 3.0 or higher. There is no rounding with the HOPE GPA. So if a student had a 2.9999, we don't round that up to a 3.0. It's got to be 3.0 or higher. Now, not only will a student need a 3.0 high school HOPE GPA to qualify, they'll also need to receive credit in 4 academically rigorous courses. And these are the categories of academically rigorous courses. It can be 4 credits out of anything on this list. It could be an AP class. It could be an IB class. It could be a dual enrollment in a college level course subject. It could be an advanced math course, and some examples of that would be advanced algebra, pre-calculus, calculus. It could be an advanced science class. Some examples of that are chemistry, physics, anatomy and physiology, and there are others. These are just some really common examples. It could also be any foreign language 2 or higher, so Spanish 2, Spanish 3. That would count. And there are a lot of other examples. Those are just some common ones. So the main thing to remember is to make sure by the time you graduate that you have credit in at least 4 of these courses. For most students, this is not a big deal. They're already taking these courses as part of their junior and senior year curriculum anyway. Now, the high school HOPE GPA is calculated by the Georgia Student Finance Commission. Again, we are only going to be looking at core courses, 9th through 12th grade. We do receive the transcripts from the high school. High school uploads those transcripts to us at the end of each semester. We look to be sure that you have taken the 4 academically rigorous courses, and students can access their high school HOPE GPA by logging into their GA Futures account. So you go to the website, log in, and click on My GA Futures on the right side. And on the left side down towards the bottom, you'll see the link for my high school HOPE GPA. Now for seniors, we will receive the transcripts from your high school. We will calculate the preliminary HOPE GPA by February 15th. That'll be after this fall semester. And then the final HOPE GPAs will be calculated by June 30th. Once a student clicks on that link, and by the way, the high schools are uploading those transcripts to us each semester for underclassmen as well. So you actually have a high school GPA at the latest at the beginning of 10th grade year, possibly even in your 9th grade year if your high school has uploaded those grades. So you can keep track of your HOPE GPA throughout your high school career. Once you click on the link, you should be able to see your HOPE calculated GPA. We also let you know how many courses you've taken that count for rigor. And if we have SAT or ACT test scores on file, we post them here as well. So we do receive those test scores from SAT and ACT, And if we're able to match that information to a student who has an account in our system, then we post the test scores here. Now, I'm going to talk about Zell Miller in just a minute, but if you think that you may qualify for Zell Miller based on your test scores, you need to make sure that you have your test scores in our system. And there are some easy ways to get those. You can either select us to receive your test scores when you register for the SAT or ACT, or there's actually a student document upload that you can use to actually upload your test scores into the system. Now, in order to view your HOPE GPA, you will need to have your Social Security number in your profile. And if you're a senior, you want to make sure that you log in senior year, make sure you can see your HOPE GPA. If there's an error or something that's not quite right, then that means there could be a mismatch and we don't have your correct information. We will not be able to send that information to the colleges. And once a student is in college, to maintain the HOPE scholarship, they must maintain a 3.0 college HOPE GPA at all checkpoints. And those checkpoints are going to be the end of every spring semester. And after the student has attempted 30, 60, and 90 semester hours, and those are after high school graduation. And then there's also a 3-term checkpoint if the student is enrolled less than full-time for the first 3 semesters. At each one of those checkpoints, that student is going to need a 3.0 to continue to receive HOPE. If a student loses the HOPE scholarship, they can gain it back one time. But if they lose it the second time, then they would no longer qualify. Also, if a student does not graduate as a HOPE scholar after high school graduation, and they have attempted 30 semester hours after that usually that first year of college, 30 semester hours, if the student has a 3.0, at that point, they become eligible for HOPE until the next checkpoint. The College HOPE GPA is also can be found on the student's GA Futures account. So log in using the same account as from high school, click on My GA Futures, and on the left side down towards the bottom is My College HOPE profile. Now keep in mind, if you are a high school student and you are taking dual enrollment courses, you would not have a College HOPE profile. The College HOPE GPA would not calculate or begin calculating until after high school graduation and after that first semester of college. Then you would have a College HOPE GPA at that point. The College HOPE GPA is also calculated by the Georgia Student Finance Commission. We do calculate that every semester. The student may not be at a checkpoint, but we're going to calculate it each semester. And certain STEM courses in college are weighted 0.5 for all grades except an A and an F. And high school dual enrollment courses are not included. So any courses you've taken in high school, college courses, they don't count in that College HOPE GPA. Let's take a look at the Zell Miller Scholarship next. In order to qualify for Zell Miller, the student would need to be either the valedictorian or the salutatorian, and they would automatically qualify. Other students would qualify as well if they graduate with a 3.7 HOPE GPA. They have the rigorous courses, 4 rigorous course credits, and they have one of these 2 test scores. So a student would need a 1200 on the SAT or a 26 on the ACT. So they do have to get those test scores in one test sitting, and they will need to take the exam before high school graduation. Now, with the Zell Miller Scholarship, you have to earn this one from high school, or you would never qualify for it in the future. So it's very important to take the SAT or the ACT and try to get those test scores before high school graduation. Once a student is in college, to maintain the Zell Miller Scholarship, they'll need to maintain a 3.3 College HOPE GPA. The checkpoints are the same as for HOPE. That's going to be the end of every spring and after the student has attempted 30, 60, 90 semester hours, and there's a 3-term checkpoint there as well. Just like with HOPE, if a student loses the Zell Miller Scholarship, they can gain it back one time, but if they lose it the second time, they would no longer qualify. Also, a student could lose the Zell Miller Scholarship because they don't have a 3.3, But if they have a 3.0, they become eligible for HOPE instead. So you don't get both. Students get one or the other, but if they lose the Zell Miller Scholarship, they still could possibly qualify for HOPE instead. Once a student has attempted 127 semester hours, they would no longer qualify for either one of the scholarships. It takes about 120 hours to get a four-year degree. Now, any dual enrollment courses taken while the student was in high school does not count in that 127 semester hour limit. So that's good. That means that once a student graduates high school, they start off with 0 hours. So they have the full 127 hours that they can use either one of the scholarships. And then students also have 10 years from the day they graduate high school to use either scholarship, with an exception for students who are on active duty in the military. That time in the military doesn't count in that 10-year limit. And then once a student has received a bachelor's degree or first professional degree, then they would no longer qualify. Now let's take a look at the grants. The HOPE grant is available for students who are enrolled in certificate or diploma programs. And these are primarily found at our technical colleges, although we do have some university system schools that do offer certificate and diplomas, but primarily these are at technical colleges. With the HOPE grant, we do not look at any grades from high school. There are no GPA requirements. There are no test score requirements. Basically, a student, if they are a Georgia resident and they meet the other general requirements and they're going into a certificate or diploma program, they're automatically going to qualify. Now, once the HOPE grant has paid for 30 hours, they will check the GPA. Student would need a 2.0 college cumulative GPA in order to continue to receive it. And it'll be checked again at 60 semester hours, 60 paid hours. Then once the HOPE grant has paid for 63 semester hours, or if the student receives a bachelor's degree, then the student would no longer qualify. The Zell Miller grant is also available for certificate and diploma programs. The way this one works, we don't look at any grades from high school. There are no test score requirements from high school. A student would enroll in a certificate or diploma program that first semester they receive the HOPE grant. At the end of that semester, if the student has a 3.5 college cumulative GPA, then the next semester, the student will receive the Zell Miller grant, which will pay 100% of the tuition and retroactively go back that first term and pay the student back for what HOPE didn't cover. And they'll check the GPA every single semester. As long as the student has a 3.5 the following semester, they get the Zell Miller grant. If they don't have a 3.5, they get the HOPE grant instead. And then once a combination of the HOPE grant and the Zell Miller grant have paid for 63 hours, then the student would no longer qualify. Now we also have the HOPE Career Grant. And again, this is also for certificate and diploma programs. There are 17 different career fields in the state of Georgia that have been identified as strategic. That means that we have more jobs available in these areas, and we don't have enough people going to work in these fields. And there's more than, at my last count, something like 338 different certificate and diploma programs that are in these 17 career fields. Now, what the HOPE Career Grant does, the student receives the HOPE grant or the Zell Miller grant. And if they're going into one of these programs, they will also receive an additional amount of money from the HOPE Career Grant that helps the student pay for these programs. You may see the technical colleges advertising these programs as tuition free or free. And that's because a lot of times the HOPE grant or Zell Miller grant in combination with the HOPE Career Grant, if it doesn't cover all of the cost of the program, it covers a majority of the cost of the program. So these programs a lot of times are very little to no cost. We do have a complete list of all of these programs available out on the GA Futures website. And there's some really good programs. There's movie production, computer programming. There's a lot of medical programs, certificates and diplomas available in these fields. There's a lot of hands-on programs, automotive, aviation, industrial maintenance. So there's some really good programs there. How much does Hope actually pay? So the Hope Scholarship at public colleges in Georgia, it's going to pay a portion of the tuition. And in most cases, I think just about all cases, it covers the majority of the tuition. Now, keep in mind, it doesn't pay fees or books or dorms or meal plans, but it does cover the majority of the tuition. At public colleges, it pays a different dollar amount at each school. On the GA Futures website, we have a chart, and you can actually go out and look up your particular college, and you can see the exact dollar amount that Hope will pay. At public colleges, the Zell Miller Scholarship will pay the full standard tuition. At private colleges, private Hope eligible colleges in Georgia, the Hope Scholarship for this year is paying $2,152 per semester, and that's across the board. It pays the same amount at all private colleges. And the Zell Miller Scholarship is paying $2,808 per semester for full-time study. And then for those certificate and diploma programs, mostly at our technical colleges, the Hope grant is going to cover the majority of the tuition, and the Zell Miller grant will cover the full standard tuition. And for those students who are going into those Hope Career Grant programs, if they are taking 9 or more hours, they're going to receive an extra $500. 3 to 8 hours, they'll receive an extra $250. And then if a student's just taking one class, 1 to 2 hours, they're going to receive an extra $125. And then any student who is in truck driving will receive $1,000 one time. These are just some other programs we administer through the state of Georgia. We have the Georgia National Guard Service Cancelable Loan. This will pay the tuition for students for undergraduate and graduate levels for students who are in the National Guard. And as long as they fulfill their Guard commitment, they don't have to pay it back. The Tuition Equalization Grant is another grant that provides funding to private students who are attending private colleges in Georgia. And then these are some additional scholarships and grants that we offer. At Georgia Military College, there's a scholarship. At the University of North Georgia, there's some military scholarships and ROTC grants. Scholarship for Engineering Education, that one's available at Mercer University. More information about all of these programs is available on the GA Futures website. To apply for any of our state programs, students can go to the Hope and State Aid Program tab on GA Futures, and the very first link is State Aid Applications and Forms. Now, also under the Hope and State Aid Program tab, there's all your information about all the programs we offer. If you click on the Hope and Zell Miller Scholarship tab, that has the link there to the award amounts, how much Hope actually pays. The Hope and Zell Miller grant has a link to the Hope Career Grant under that tab, and you can see a list of all those programs. We also offer a loan through the state. It's called the Student Access Loan. It has a 1% interest rate, and that's available once a student has gotten all other financial aid, including federal loans, and they still need an additional amount. They can apply for that amount through the Student Access Loan. There's more information available for that there. And then our other programs, the state scholarships and grants and our state military programs are found there. But to apply for our programs, you click on the State Aid Applications and Forms. And the very first one on the list is called GSF Apps. And that stands for Georgia Student Finance Application. There are 2 ways to apply for Hope or Zell Miller scholarships and grants, 2 different ways. This is one way to apply. This is on the GA Futures website. It's a very easy, very simple application. It probably takes less than 5 or 10 minutes to complete. There's no income information required. And this application is good for 10 years. So once a student completes the GSF apps, they do not have to complete it again. It's good for 10 years. Now that's one way to apply for Hope or Zell Miller. The other way is to complete the Fafsa, or a student can actually do both. They can complete the Fafsa as well as complete the GSF apps, but either or both is how a student would apply for Hope. The Fafsa stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. It is the first step in the financial aid search. The application is free and it opens up every year on October 1st. Now, keep in mind, you do have to complete a FAFSA every year. So if you're applying for HOPE by using the FAFSA, you want to make sure that you are updating your FAFSA each year. And that opens up October 1st of every year. Your first step in completing the FAFSA is creating your FSA ID. So the student will need an FSA ID, and if the student is a dependent student, one parent will also need an FSA ID. Now, we offer FAFSA completion events across the state for students. We have an outreach team also that's available for personal one-on-one appointments, and I'll show you more information in just a bit of how to schedule an appointment. But you can always check on the GA Futures website. We have an event calendar there, and you can see when an event will be in your area. And don't pay anyone to help you complete the FAFSA. You have to do the FAFSA yourself, but you don't need to pay anyone to do the FAFSA. There are two ways to complete the FAFSA. The first, there is an app called My Student Aid, and it can be downloaded onto your phone or your tablet. It's a very easy app to use, very easy. Students don't have any problems with the app. The other way is to go to the website. Now, anything student aid related is found on the studentaid.gov website. So you can go directly to studentaid.gov and click apply for aid and then click complete the FAFSA. The other a little quicker way is to go to your address bar and type in www.fafsa.gov, FAFSA.gov. That'll take you directly to the FAFSA form. So either way, you can go to studentaid.gov or just type in fafsa.gov. Make sure that you go to the .gov website. There is a fafsa.com that does charge a fee to complete the FAFSA, so you want to make sure that you're going to the .gov website. So when do you need to submit the FAFSA? If a student is a senior graduating in 2022 and will be attending fall, so they're graduating in May, going to college in August, that's fall of 2022, that student needs to complete the 2022-2023 FAFSA. That's the one that just opened up just a few weeks ago on October the 1st. It's going to cover the terms of fall 2022, spring of 2023, and summer of 2023 as well. Now, it will be looking at 2020 tax returns. So students and parents' tax return information will be from the year 2020. Now, if a student is planning to go in the summer, a senior this year, graduating in May, you're going to college in May or June, you're not going to take the summer off, that would be summer of 2022, then you also want to back up, and to get financial aid for that summer term, you need to complete the 2021-2022 FAFSA, as well as the 2022-2023 FAFSA. Summer ends the financial aid year, fall always begins the new financial aid year. But if you're a senior graduating and you're going to start college in fall of 2022, you just need to complete the 2022-2023 FAFSA. What is needed to complete the FAFSA? You will need Social Security numbers for students and parents, income tax information, and again, if you're a senior completing, graduating and going fall of 2022, it's going to be looking at 2020 tax returns. You'll need your W-2s and other records of money earned. You might need bank statements or investment records. It does ask on the FAFSA about any amounts in savings or checking, any investments or assets owned by the family. You may also need records of untaxed income. That's things like child support. And you'll also need an FSA ID to be able to sign the FAFSA electronically. So the FSA ID is probably, in a lot of times, one of the biggest headaches of the FAFSA. This is a user-created username and password. Once you create an FSA ID, you cannot create a new one. So you want to make sure that you're writing it down, take a picture of it, save it, put it somewhere where you'll have that. You also, as a student, you want to be sure that you're using a personal email. Do not use your high school email. Once you graduate high school, a lot of times that high school email goes away. So you want to make sure that you're using a personal email. That's how you can retrieve your username and password in the future. You want to use a good cell number also. That's another alternative way to retrieve your username and password. If you are a dependent student, one of your parents will also need an FSA ID as well. Now, if your parent has an older child in college, or if they have been to college themselves recently in, say, the past few years, they may already have an FSA ID, and they're going to use that same FSA ID. So again, be sure to write it down, save it somewhere, because you'll use it every year going forward. On the FAFSA, students can list up to 10 colleges to receive their information. So even if a student hasn't yet decided where they're going to attend, they haven't even applied yet, you can still go ahead and complete the FAFSA, and up to 10 colleges can receive your information. You can also log back in later and do corrections to the FAFSA if you want to add additional schools, or if you want to delete some schools. You can always log back in after you've submitted the FAFSA as well. There's a series of questions on the FAFSA that determines if a student is dependent or independent. If a student answers no to every single question or none of the above, the student is considered dependent. So basically, if a student is under 24 years old, if they are not married, they do not have children they support, they're not in the military, they're not in foster care, an orphan, or a ward of the court, or they're not in legal guardianship or homeless, then that student is considered dependent and parent information is required. Now, if a parent lives with, if a student lives with someone other than a parent, maybe they live with their grandparents or grandmother, then back over here, they would probably have a yes answer. Yes, I am in legal guardianship. That one yes answer makes the student independent. But if all those answers are no, then you will be required to provide information about your parents. Who is a parent? A parent is a biological or adoptive parent only. You would never use anyone else's information. You would not use your grandparents or aunt, uncle, brother, sister. You would never use anyone else's income information, only your parents. Now, if your parents are not married or they're divorced or separated, you may be wondering, well, which parent do I use? The student would use the parent that provides the most support. And usually that's the parent that the student lives with. So you're going to use that parent's information. If that parent is remarried, then you would also use the step parent's information as well. But again, if the student lives with someone other than a parent, then they either have a special situation or they have a yes answer back over on the dependency questions. Now, in the FAFSA, there is a link called the data retrieval tool that will link to the IRS, and it will pull in tax information. You want to try to use this link if at all possible. The FAFSA selects about anywhere from 30 to 40% of all students who complete a FAFSA to be what we call verified. It's a little process called verification. If the student is selected for verification, then the college will be required to collect certain documents. And among those would be tax transcripts. And you have to get those from the IRS and upload them to the financial aid office. However, if the parent and the student use the IRS data retrieval tool, your information is official. It's coming directly from the IRS. And if you get selected to be verified, you don't have to provide those tax documents. They have it, it's from the IRS. You're good to go with that. So try to use the IRS data retrieval tool if at all possible. This will be the first place that a parent would use their FSA ID also. And that way they can access the data retrieval tool on the IRS site. Once you get over to the IRS site, you need to make sure to type in the address and the name and the address exactly the way it is on the 2020 tax return, or whatever tax return you're using, 2020 for this year's FAFSA. Make sure that you're typing that in exactly, because it has to find that tax information in the IRS database. Once you have gotten to the end of the FAFSA, you're ready to sign and submit it. You will need parent signature as well as student signature, and you will want to sign it electronically with the FSA ID. This is the quickest, easiest way. You can also print a signature page and mail that into FSA ID. But if you're able to create, mail that into FAFSA. But if you're able to create an FSA ID, that's your best bet. The signature page would be a good option maybe for parents who do not have social security numbers. They're going to put in all zeros on the FAFSA, and then they can't create an FSA ID because they don't have a social security number. You have to have a social security number to create an FSA ID, but that parent can print the signature page and mail that in. But otherwise, you should create your FSA ID and sign it electronically. Once you have submitted, you hit submit, you'll get a confirmation page, and it's going to tell you what that expected family contribution is. It will also let the student know how much they would qualify for in the Pell Grant, and also how much the student is eligible to borrow under the federal loan program. Now, once the FAFSA has processed, and it usually takes about 24 to 48 hours for it to process, you will want to log back in and click view or print your student aid report. You can also log back in and make corrections, but the main thing you want to do is log back in and click view or print your student aid report. And once you have clicked on that, you'll be able to see a lot of information there. It'll be a summary of all the information in the FAFSA, but it will also show you comments. And in those comments, it'll let you know if the student's being verified. It will also let you know if there's an error on the FAFSA. Maybe you typed in a social security number wrong and it could not match it with Social Security Administration. It will let you know there. So it's always a great idea to log back in, a few days after you've submitted your FAFSA. Just read through it and make sure everything is good to go with it. Sometimes there's special circumstances that can't go on a FAFSA. These are just some common examples. Maybe there was a change in employment status. Maybe the tax returns from 2020, the income is a lot higher than it is currently. Maybe there was a job loss or a job change. Maybe the student or the family has medical expenses not covered by insurance, or a change in parent marital status, or maybe there's unusual dependent care expenses, or if the student just cannot obtain parent information. These are all special circumstances that you will take your documentation to the financial aid office. You have to do your FAFSA based on your tax return, but the financial aid office, they can go in and make adjustments to the income on the FAFSA, and it could help you qualify if you have a special circumstance. So again, just make sure you take all your documents to your financial aid office. And then once the college has processed the financial aid, the FAFSA information, they will put together what's called a financial aid award. Now, you may submit your FAFSA in October, November. It may be late spring before you hear anything back. It could be as late as April or May before you get an award. But once you have applied for admission to that college, you will be given a username and password once you're accepted to log into the student portal, usually on the college's website. And in that student portal, you'll see a financial aid section. And this is where you're going to find all of your financial aid award and more information about financial aid. Like if you're being verified, it'll let you know what documents the college needs. But you definitely want to, once you've been accepted and your college has processed your award, go out and take a look at it. Some colleges you have to click yes, I accept, or no, I don't accept. Just because they offer you something doesn't mean you have to accept it. You can decline loans, for example, if they offer you loans. Some colleges will not automatically offer loans. You actually have to, they have like a loan request form, for example. They may have a separate form that lets the college know, yes, I want you to process student loans for me. So just make sure that once you've been accepted to your college, you're reading through all of the emails. They'll go to your college email. Make sure you're reading all of your emails, following through if there's any, if they're asking for documents or need any additional information, make sure you're following up on that, and make sure that you log in and take a look at your financial aid award. The best order to accept aid, of course, always look for scholarships and grants. That's going to be your money that's generally free, doesn't have to be paid back. Work study is a good second option. It also doesn't have to be paid back, and you're actually earning that money through a paycheck. Maybe consider work study instead of loans. And then your federal loans, that's your next best option, but it is a loan. They do have to be paid back, but they do have good terms. And then the state government or the college sometimes will have loans. We do have the 1% interest rate loan called the Student Access Loan. That's through the state of Georgia on the GA Futures website. So that's a good next option. And then last are private loans. Private loans are usually higher interest rates. Students usually have to have a cosigner. The terms and the conditions are usually not as favorable as some of the other options. And another option that's not on here, a lot of colleges will also offer a tuition payment plan. They'll allow you to split your tuition or your tuition and fees up into multiple payments. So that may be a good option as well. These are some additional resources. Our website, again, gafutures.org, fafsa.gov, that's your big one. That's found on studentaid.gov. If you are a senior, you can go ahead and start completing the 2022-2023 FAFSA. That did open up October the 1st. Again, you're going to need your 2020 and your parents' 2020 tax returns for that. So what are your next steps? If you don't have a GA Futures account, go ahead and create one. Now, if you're a dual enrollment student, you already have a GA Futures account. If you are, you had to have that to complete the dual enrollment application. So don't create a new account if you already have one. That can cause problems down the line. So just make sure that you go through the forgot username or forgot password. Log into your GA Futures account, check your HOPE GPA. Make sure you can see your GPA, or if you're going to qualify for Zell Miller, make sure we have your test scores on file. So these are things that you want to do before graduation. If there's any errors or anything that needs to be corrected, you can do that before graduation. And then seniors, of course, the FAFSA is open. So go ahead and start completing that FAFSA. This is your outreach team. We are located across the state. This map is available on the GA Futures website. It's under the About Us. So every representative has a territory that they live in and cover. I'm Angie Wilson, and I live in South Georgia. So I actually have the hot pink area down at the bottom of the state. And this has my contact information. You can also click on your rep's picture and it will pull up a bio. You can click on the bio and you'll see a link. It'll say to schedule a personal appointment. So you can click that link and it will put an appointment on our calendar for a phone call or a text. We'll actually call you at that time. It's for a 30-minute time period, and we can help you with the FAFSA. We can also a lot of times set up like a Zoom call, or we even meet in person. You can also check our events calendar to see when we're going to be in your area as well. And we are always glad to help. So please make sure that you're reaching out to your representative, contacting us, and let us know anytime that we can be of assistance. We also have an 800 number. We have a call center up in Atlanta. That's the number there. It's also available on the website. They're open Monday through Friday, generally 8:30 to 5. And then our team has a email outreach@gsfc.org. We are also social. Please be sure and follow GA Futures on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Every other Tuesday, we're doing Instagram Live at 1 o'clock. Tomorrow, I believe Hal Wilkinson will be doing an Instagram Live, and he'll be covering, I believe, a FAFSA checklist before the FAFSA and after the FAFSA. So we cover a lot of different topics. We also do webinars. We do about several webinars, usually at least 2 per month. More information about that is also found on the GA Futures website. So please be sure and follow us. And we're here to help. So anytime that we can be of assistance, please be sure and let us know. And that pretty much concludes my portion of the presentation. Are there any questions about anything?
Thank you, Andrea. I don't see any questions in the chat either, so I think we're all clear. But I do want to thank you for your presentation and your time tonight. And we do still have, I might say her name wrong, so forgive me, Nyla from Zoro that's supposed to announce the scholarship information.
Naila, I'm sorry. I
Naila,
was on
okay.
mute.
You're fine. If you
And-
want to share your screen and share about the scholarship and the foundation, you can go right ahead.
All right, thanks. Let me get set up. I had it. Share. Is it sharing a presentation right now?
Yes, but I can still see the slides to the side. It's
Okay.
not in presentation mode.
Okay. Here. All righty.
There you go.
So we're using a previous presentation, but I just wanted to give some high-level details. We are the Zoro Educational Foundation. We provide scholarships to young people aging out of foster care. We range from ages 16 to 26. So that makes our scholarship a little bit different. We both help with undergraduate and graduate school. So a lot of the times your continued support is going beyond your undergraduate journey. To give a little bit about ourselves, this is our team. So you can reach out to any one of us. So you'll have a lot of interactions. We have a small but mighty team, and we are very interactive with our scholars. So you're prone to talk to any one of us. I'm Naila Ennis right here. So I run the scholarship program. So anything that deals with scholarships, disbursements, I'm your girl. Next, so this is mostly foster care information we go over. I won't bog down on the details of this, so I'll kind of skip through these things. So the Zoro Scholarship is made up of a lot of more components than just funding. So you do on average get about $12,000 for 4 years, and then you'll get a continued assistance post that. So what I like to say is that basically you're guaranteed from Zoro $1,000 per semester. If we have additional funding, we will fund above that. But it's not always guaranteed. So what I always like to tell scholars that we provide $1,000 per semester, so fall, spring, and summer. And that is our funding stream. You just have to turn in some documents every semester after you get accepted, and you are good to go. You do not have to reapply. It's just submitting like your grades and stuff every semester to get your funding. So also a big part of our program is executive coaching. A lot of people like to confuse it with therapy. Is not therapy or therapeutic services. It's more of getting ahead of the curve. A lot of CEOs, executives get coaching. And so we thought that that would be a great thing to have during your academic journey where you're building the foundation of your career. So not only do you get a scholarship, you get executive coaching to make sure you're on the right track. You're using all the strategies to get internships, making sure that you're in the right major that's for you, and that you're enhancing your skill set and also your passions as you figure out and navigate your academic journey. We also have an optional mentorship program. It's combined of both independent mentors and an organization called the Links Incorporated, which they provide just your social capital. We're a small team, we can only do so much. So what the mentors do are able to be your check-ins day in and day out, even it's something about a roommate to, I don't know where to get this resource, you have a mentor to help guide you through your academic journey. So this is just a complete package of what the Zoro Scholarship is. We do also offer internships, and we're just building that out, but we do have an Zoro Works program that we're building robustly. We've helped a lot of scholars get into their career journeys by partnering with some of our donors. So we have scholars who's in accounting, who works at a top firm at BDO. We helped a scholar move from Philly to Georgia, who had her associates in an auto mechanic and got her a job at Mercedes-Benz as a technician. So we try to really fill the gap, but also know that your collegiate journey is to lead you to a career, and we hope to have a hand of getting you from college to career. Again, oh, is it taking me backwards? So again, just to go high level of what we fund. So you all know when you're applying a scholarship, we don't just limit our funds to tuition and fees, but we do support housing, both on and off campus, meal plans. So meal plans is extra dining, it goes from extra dollars on campus to things as food support. So giving a $250 Visa gift card for 4 months. Is also another way for food support. We also supply books and supplies, which is just all from laptops to books and materials that you need, from transportation. So right now we only cover public transportation, but we are expanding to like Uber and Lyft gift cards, gas cards, and we're exploring some other ways that we can support in transportation, because we know just college isn't just about tuition and fees. You have other expenses and other lives that causes barriers in achieving your academic success. So we try to eliminate those barriers as much as possible. Again, it is $3,000 per academic year, $1,000 per semester. We fund at only fully accredited institutions. So it's not only just 2 and 4 years. We also help with vocational and technical schools, as well as certification. So as long as the certification is accredited in some instance in fashion, we do help with that as well. So it doesn't have to be just a 4-year, 2-year college. It can be vocational, technical, or a certification. And yeah, so I won't bog you down with this, but this is the process, what it looks like every semester in order to receive funding from us. These are our partners that we have, and the curriculum it is. Again, I won't bog you down with that. So I'll just cut it right here if any questions, but our scholarship does open, it opens December 1st and it closes April 30th. It is just filled with 2 personal essays that we require, well, some prompts, and 3 letters of recommendation. Our minimum is a 2.0. And we just require that you have a 2.0 throughout your academic journey with us. And that is all it takes to really get in our scholarship. It's just be from ages 16 to 26, that you've aged out of college, that you have a minimum of a 2.0 GPA. And that, you know, in order to be successful and to get through, I would just recommend having very strong personal statements and letters of recommendation. And that's it from us.
Thank you, Naila. I appreciate you coming on and sharing that information with us. As I said, this is recorded, so we'll post it to our Gear Up Georgia YouTube channel and share the recording with those students that had registered that couldn't make it, and those that were in and out today. So we will get that out to share as much information, and we'll also share information on the scholarship once it opens in our newsletters and get our students aware of that too. So thank you for coming on and sharing that. And
Thank you.
You're welcome. And there's no questions here. So if I just want to thank everyone for presenting and coming tonight, and y'all can hop off and enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you.